Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again with one quick build before the Zizaran Gauntlet event, where I'll play it SSF HC and make some scuffed version of some build with no damage, more defense, play it carefully, and then ultimately die anyway. But it'll be kind of fun in the short term. In any case, the character you're seeing here in the build we're playing is a Poet Pen Spellslinger Doryani prototype Inquisitor. So if you're unfamiliar with the chest that is Doryani prototype, essentially it says that nearby enemy monsters will have the same lightning resist as you. So the idea is to have a 0 lightning resist on your gear, so you start out with minus 60, and even go to such extremes as removing lightning resist from gear, giving negative lightning resist. So if you get to negative 100 lightning resist, which is what we're currently at, that will apply to nearby enemies, and then you don't have to build into any sort of penetration, and you can go to some pretty big extremes if you really want, hit something like minus 200 lightning resist, which gives multipliers that don't otherwise exist in the game for such elemental type damage. So in this case I'm using one Poet's Pen, and that has an arc filled into it. That's the Celestial Arc you are seeing. I'm using Spellslinger with a supercharged ball lightning, so 10% of the time it shoots out a larger celestial ball lightning that you might sometimes see, and that means it does more damage and more area. And then I'm also using Cast on Crit on my Frenzy to have another ball lightning. So I've got 2 ball lightnings. Primarily we are clearing with the arc, and primarily we are doing single target with the Spellslinger, but the additional ball lightning from the frenzy does a little bit of damage as well. I've gone out of my way to avoid all lightning resist. I've also reduced my lightning resist by a little bit, just using 1 Ventor ring and 1 Thread of Hope at the moment, so I'm at about minus 104. I've then picked the Inquisitor because we don't need the elemental ignore resist passive, and instead we're just taking some energy shield regen, energy shield status immunity, and a whole bunch of crit that you get from the Inquisitor node, and also some reduced LE damage taken from enemy monsters and making them take a bit more LE damage as well. There are plenty of choices to take or to make for this type of a build, this type of a character and ascendancy, because you don't need huge amounts of elemental penetration, which is what a lot of the time an ascendancy does for you. So last time I played one of these, I made it an assassin, and it was Mjolnir based, and it was probably one of the strongest characters I'd ever played, and I'd say likely, if you want to cheese a Doryani's prototype once again, it's probably still going to be a Mjolnir build, just for pure comfort of running around, cycloning, shield charging and stuff. But I'm taking an attempt at a wanding Spellslinger type thing, and it's been pretty good so far. Fixing the incoming lightning damage taken is the biggest issue that you will face, and I've currently done that by wearing 1 talisman that does 50% of lightning damage taken as cold, and that's it. Previously, I did it by wearing one of those talismans and also using a Divine Flesh, I think it's called, which is a timeless jewel keystone that turns 50% of LE damage you take as chaos, and then capping chaos. So currently I am a bit susceptible to lightning damage because I did not take this Divine Flesh this time around. I just couldn't do it if I'm building into energy shield, and it's a little bit sketchy, but for the most part, it's still doable. You can get a Great Wolf Talisman that's unique, that then does 100% of your lightning damage taken as cold, and that fixes it altogether. But like I said, currently I'm just playing around with taking a bit of extra lightning damage, very softcore approach. Sometimes it gets me killed, but a lot of the time it doesn't really matter. I've only got one little piece of single target to show you so far, and that is Baron, and that's it for the time being. So with that said, I'll jump straight into how I've built the character. So here is the current character, level 91, straight from God's light res. Because we're trying to not have any light res, we really want to avoid it and even go into some negatives. So negative 104 at the moment, which is nothing too impressive. I haven't gone too hard on that because I'm still trying to balance the character well enough just as a character. But you can go much harder, and I think I still should. I need to change my mentality a bit about how I'm building and probably do less lightning res, because it's just straight up more damage multipliers by doing so. 6.5k life, almost 3k ES, so we're pretty decent against most things except for lightning damage. But as I mentioned, the way we're trying to get rid of that at the moment is lightning damage taken as cold. You can get a Great Wolf Talisman that does 100%, or you can have one of these that does half of it, and then also you can use a Divine Flesh. But I'm currently using the Timeless Jewel to get more energy shield, and that's fine. It helps for a lot of things, but you could just build into Pure Life and then grab the 50% Ellie as Chaos Timeless Jewel node and then build into more Chaos, and then you're pretty thick against everything. But I don't know. So far so good. It's working out. It's whatever. I'm just making it a little bit weird against lightning for the time being, and it's not too big a deal. So the way we're currently reducing res is through a Ventor's Gamble. If you have catalysts for resistance on them, as you can see, 20 quality, you can take the minus 25 even further to minus 30, and then also using a Thread of Hope for minus 20 down here. So that gives us about minus 50 at the moment, and then I accidentally have to take 6 lightning res here, so that's why we have minus 104. But you can have 2 of these on, you can self-curse conductivity, you can wear more Thread of Hopes, there's plenty you can do, and it's pretty big for damage if you do so. So I might still look into fine-tuning the build in that way. But as you can see, Doryani's prototype, that's the chest, deal no non-lightning damage, so you can only deal lightning damage with this chest and build. And then nearby enemies have lightning resistance equal to yours. So that's the main item, that's the interesting part of the build. We then have a Poet's Pen that has currently Awakened Lightning, Inspiration, and Arc. So every single time I attack, you can see there will be an arc that shoots out and also a ball lightning. The ball lightning is purely because of the Spell Slinger, which is over here. Divergent ball lightning, so 10% chance to be supercharged. That's, like I said, the supercharged ball lightning just looks slightly bigger. Let's see if we can get one rolling. There it is. And that one will deal 50% more damage and 50% more area. We then have Slow Proj, Spell Slinger, and Control D over here. It's a very expensive gem. Don't feel like you need to have it. It's like a fucking 5% damage increase overall, something like that. I wouldn't bother with it if it's, you know, you don't have that much currency lying around. I then made a nice little harvest helm. So basically all we had to do was put a few Hysterias onto a helm, saw hypothermia, and then I augmented crit, and that's why we have what is essentially like a 7-link, plus 1 AoE gems, and then some life on that. And that's the main sort of interesting part there. We then have Frenzy, which is attached to Cast on Crit, Faster Attacks, Ball Lightning, Inspiration, and Energy Leech. So that's another Ball Lightning I've got that only functions when we crit with a Frenzy. It is pretty hard to work this into the build as well. Not sure it's 100% worth it, because fixing accuracy is kind of difficult. Like, I've done a fair bit and I'm still only about 80%. So my proc rate won't be terrific. I just figured it's kind of worth getting another spell into the setup, but it might be wrong. And then besides that, you have to really try and balance your attack speed so that you're making best use of your Spell Slinger as possible. Because currently my Spell Slinger with this helmet chart, with these boots for cooldown recovery, you should be able to see that Spell Slinger cooldown is on my Ball Lightning 0.33. So if I end up attacking at a rate of 0.3, it's pretty terrible, because I'm going to be missing some of these additional casts that you might be able to see looking at the cooldown here. So instead we want to attack at something like 0.15, right? And I'm not yet at that level, but once I have Frenzy charges up and all of my buffs up, that's when I'm attacking quite a bit faster and the proc rate should be better. But you should be able to see currently that my proc rate, I can get 2 attacks in sometimes, and that second attack won't be proccing anything, which means that it's a inefficient use of my Spell Slinger at the moment. So if I then pop that and that, you can see that we're proccing quite a bit faster and a bit more reliably, and that's at 0.24 cast time. With the frenzies, we're at like 0.19. Still want to go a little bit deeper and further on that. But Poet's Pen itself has like a 0.15 proc time on the arc, I believe. So you want to get that down as 0.13 at the moment, so you want to get that down as low as possible as well. And then likewise for cast on crit. That's why we're using attack speed, and I'm not 100% certain on my current breakpoints, how I've built it, if it's going to be optimal in the end. Otherwise, we're using a bunch of gear from previous characters, so life recovery, using some pretty interesting gloves. First time I've actually seen a decent use for these. So enemies take 4% LE damage from hits for each withered you have inflicted on them. Your hits cannot penetrate or ignore LE resists, which doesn't matter to us because we're instead reducing the monster's lightning resist through our chest slot. So then with all of our spells, hopefully we are triggering withered on the enemy fairly commonly and proficiently, and thus our wither, instead of dealing negative, or instead of dealing increased chaos damage taken, is increased LE damage taken. And it should be a pretty big increase in damage for our build. Reusing boots for cooldown recovery. I don't think we really need cooldown recovery on the build at the moment, the way I've built it. We then have Assassin Mark Ring. Not sure if it's worth it, since another minus 30 Ventors is like 30% more damage at this point. Maybe, we'll see. Talisman, so I just bought this thing. You just search talismans that have lightning from hits as cold or lightning from hits as fire, and then some good mods. I currently don't have a second curse, so I wanted to utilize Whispers of Doom here since I bought one with additional curse, but currently hasn't worked out. Don't have anything to put anywhere comfortably. So I might get a different talisman for a different anoint, but dexterity is pretty hard to come by, so I don't know if I can do that. And then a shield that bought that had fractured lightning damage. Just try and roll it to get +1 lightning, which can be done either through chaos spam, fossils, you can do some essences for life, or harvest for more lightning stuff. And then I got life on there as well through, I think, some harvest. And then we're just trying to reroll suffixes at the moment. And we should be able to print a pretty easy mirror shield, just about mirror shield, with enough harvest anyway. And this is a good example of the type of item that you will still be able to create post-harvest nerfs, the ones that they've announced. So it's still going to be a very powerful tool, just between you and me. Nothing to really be too upset about. So that's currently the build. That's what we're dealing with. And the passive tree, it's gone under a few revisions. I'm still not sure if this is the final one, but basically we are going through here, going and picking up some crit in this area, crit multi in this area, crit multi, 1 cluster jewel, reusing my cluster jewel from the Crackling Lance build. Exposure, I don't think actually matters for us, so it's kind of a dead node. Otherwise, Thunderstruck for knockback is kind of cool. We don't really care too much about it. Leech, pretty nice. So for the most part, our lightning one needs to do probably just leech, a little bit of Thunderstruck if you want it, but I'm not sure it's 100% necessary. And then I'm using Overshock and Eye of the Storm over here, and then Eye of the Storm and Cold Conduction so that we actually chill things all the time, and that's how we can utilize Hypothermia from our helm. Then of course Surging Vitality for that extra regen boost, as our Energy Shield and Life does enjoy that. I've got no good places to put a Thread of Hope, so this is the best I can do basically in this build. -20, and then I've just taken some life nodes, taken this 1 precision node. We can take an 8 attack speed node, we can take Runebinder and then start using Stormbrand as a utility, and you can have 2 Stormbrands that way, so that might be worth doing. Otherwise, the passive tree is pretty passive tree. We're just getting some life. We're going for jewel sockets because you can make some pretty good jewel sockets with our friend the Harvest, and that's why I'm using those. Though I might grab a Watcher's Eye instead of one of these. This one took me, a few weeks of just little tinkering around to make, and it's pretty damn nice as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it for now. So it's been good. It's still good. I think it's got a bit of work to still be done, but otherwise Doryani's prototype, I think it's something you might want to look into if it's available, if it's cheap enough. Usually it seems that it's not too sought after an item, and it is possible to build around pretty early into a league. A lot of damage to be done with this thing, so it's an interesting item, and it's quite powerful, quite fun. We'll see how far it takes us on this character. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.